Good evening, Australia. Welcome to an evening with Psychic TV. I am your host, Michael Dimarco. Please excuse me, I'm already losing my voice. Thank you for your company tonight. I am definitely looking forward to tonight's show. Our special guest tonight is Remo. I'm really excited to chat to him and get to know him on a more personal and deeper level, as I'm sure you are as well. If you are watching, hi Anna. Can't wait to see what you have for us since tonight. I can't wait to see what we have in store tonight. If you are watching, or one of our regulars that are watching our Thursday show, you know that it can kind of go in any direction. It is a night to get to know our psychics on a personal level, but it's also a chance for you to ask any spiritual related type questions that you maybe want some clarity on. If you think you've got the gift, how to protect, how to cleanse, it's kind of open. The one thing that we aren't doing tonight is psychic readings. So no psychic questions tonight. They are for Harry T on a Saturday night, which Remo is actually going to be on as well. So lucky enough, if you do have a psychic question for Remo, you can definitely jump on Saturday to get those answered. But if you are there, do say hello. Share this page if you can. We want to reach as many people as we possibly can. You never know who's out there that might benefit from what we're going to say tonight. We hope that you enjoy what we have in store. Definitely share, definitely say hello. It's been quite an interesting, energetically, it's been quite interesting. We've just come out of a full moon, which was also a pink moon. There's also solar flares and all this sort of stuff happening. So it's been quite a intense sort of energy. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I know definitely there's a lot of calmingness that's happening around at the moment energetically. Things start to feel a bit more calming. So maybe you're feeling that as well. So definitely do say hello, share this page. We want to reach as many people as we possibly can. We are here every Thursday night at 8 o'clock. If you do are wanting a psychic reading, hi Leanne, good to see that you're new here. Welcome to Safe Space. On psychictvinternational.com, you can get a reading with one of our psychics logged in at the moment. And we have Claire, who's currently on a call. So Claire is on pin 9139. She's currently on a call at the moment. But Amazing Grace is available on pin 9888, Judith Sky on 9125, Natalie Norm Baker on 9810. And Sandy Stargazer available on pin 9149 at psychictvinternational.com. Of course, the fun is here tonight, so definitely join us. I'm going to bring our guest of honor onto the screen, so please welcome Remo. Hello.
Hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for being a part of tonight's show.
My pleasure. I was really excited. I was really looking forward to being part of the show because I have watched a couple, and they've been very interesting.
Yeah, they are. As you know, they can kind of go in any direction. That's
exactly.
As I said, there's no script or rule. It's just really getting to know you and just talking spiritual stuff that, you don't sort of maybe get necessarily elsewhere, especially on a sort of free platform anyway.
True. Because, it is good that it is good that we don't have a script because I believe, with spiritual stuff, that is quite important, trusting your intuition and just seeing where you're led.
Yeah.
Often if we do try to make a script of things, it doesn't really work out because we end up places where we didn't think we would be, and then we were expecting something else, and we kind of get maybe stuck a little bit or stumble a little bit.
Yeah, and it's as you were saying backstage, it's sometimes it's more than just that psychic reading, as you were saying, it's so good that there's so much more to it.
It is, because I think education is very important. Education about spirit and about ourselves as beings, our non-physical element. I think it's very important. And in doing readings, I mean, us as psychics and mediums, we need that education in order to understand what we're working with and what we're doing. So
definitely. I think too, and it sort of helps other people to sort of understand as well, which is really good. I've got to say, I love your background. It's so beautiful.
Thank you.
I could just sit and listen to you talk and do like a yoga session or something with that as the backdrop.
We won't be doing that this evening.
No. That's for a different show. But to get started, for those like myself who may not know you on a personal level, tell us a bit about who is firstly your gift, so how you work as a psychic.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm a psychic medium, so a reading with me generally is part psychic, part mediumship. usually. Some people like to focus more on one than the other. So a psychic reading would be tuning into someone's energy, so the energy of their auric field, the energy of their soul, and just seeing what's happening around their life, maybe with work or relationships, or maybe with moving, or just their energy in general. Maybe they're feeling a bit down recently, and why that could be happening. And then the mediumship reading would be connecting with spirit, so the energy of loved ones in spirit. And often there is a message. Often I think there usually is a message, but sometimes they just want to make their presence known.
Yeah.
They just wanted us to know that they're around, and they do that through bringing forward evidence. So maybe names, places where they lived, what they did for work, how they passed, things like that. But mediumship is interesting, because if you say to someone, what's a medium, they'll say someone that connects with people that have passed. But I feel it's so much more. I feel it's about connection with the world around us and with ourselves as well.
Okay, interesting. We'll definitely go into detail with that. When did it start for you? Like, was this a child thing? Did you know you always had the gift?
No, not at all. In fact, I mean, it's been a few years now. But growing up, I mean, I sort of knew about it, but I was never interested. I'd never had a reading. I'd never thought about doing a reading. I had friends that did, and I thought, oh yeah, that sounds interesting. But I used to think to myself, why would you do that? So it's funny how we end up doing things we have no understanding of at some time in our lives, and we do them later on. But quite a few years ago now, I started having the most vivid dreams that you could possibly imagine, and I was waking up every morning at the same time, and then I'd try to go back to sleep. The dream would pick up where it left off, and then I'd lay there in bed with my eyes open, and I could still see the dream with my eyes open. And I thought, oh, okay.
So, do you think this was a dream or more a premonition?
No, it wasn't a premonition. It was like a little, I called them movie reels. It was like a little scene playing out.
But were you getting messages, do you think? Like, were they someone trying to give you a message, or was it just...
In hindsight, one of them was. In hindsight, one of them was someone in spirit who was a family member that I'd never met, passed before I was born. So in hindsight, yes. But the others were just... One was a guy walking along the street in front of all these shops on a main road, and it just kept going and going and going. And so then when I was
you still remember, which is good.
Yeah, I do. So then when I was laying there with my eyes open and I could still see this, I thought, okay, well, this is not the norm. So fortunately for me, my wife had started doing spiritual development classes, and her teacher was a medium who I had met. And once again, my wife had started, and I thought to myself, well, if you want to do it, obviously. But I wasn't really interested. But then when I told her about it, she said, oh, you need to speak to my teacher. She said, I think I know what's happening. And then she said that you're having a spiritual awakening, spirits come knocking, you can connect with spirit. She got me to do a little reading off a photo, and I just started blurting out all this information about someone that I'd never seen before. Excuse me. So it was a bit overwhelming at first, I have to admit, because the experiences for one, and then someone saying to you, well, you're a psychic medium, and then I'm thinking, well, what do I do with that? What happens with that? What's that all about?
Let me ask you, just to pause there for a second, was this something that you wanted? Because obviously the gift has come naturally, and it wasn't, it's developed later, and I'm curious to know if maybe it was always there, but just sort of dormant. But I'm just wondering, was this something that you wanted, a path that you wanted to go down, or you just felt like you kind of had to?
No, I certainly didn't feel like I had to. Once I started exploring it and understanding it, it's like something just clicked, and I said, that's what I want to do. And I never felt like I had to do it. And I think that's a very good point that you raised, because sometimes people have experiences like I've just talked about, and they think, oh, I have to do this. I don't think you have to do it at all. But what it does, if you do follow that and trust your intuition, and even connect with spirit, and even go to a class, it gives you a better understanding of self, and it puts you on a healing journey. because it's through that healing journey and that deeper understanding of self that I believe we are. If you're doing psychic mediumship readings, then you're the best psychic medium that you can be personally, because you're healing yourself as you go along.
I was just on that topic, when this sort of started developing for you and you started sort of going down this path, how did that change you as a person?
It made me more self-aware. It made me very sensitive, very, very emotionally sort of sensitive. So I would be really noticing that if someone was sad, I could feel it. And just made me more self-aware, and just made me want to go back and look at my life up until that point.
Okay.
Things I hadn't dealt with, past things I hadn't dealt with, maybe relationships I hadn't dealt with, and how they impacted me and what I was still holding on to, and starting to sort of understand those and release those. And it just makes you a clearer vessel. And I don't think we ever finish that journey. There's always something.
Of course.
Yeah,
of course. So let me ask, because I'm so curious about this, and we spoke to Terry last week, who she herself came into the gift quite later in life, in her 50s.
Yeah.
So I'm hearing more and more of psychics now kind of going into their sort of gift later in life. So you said that you mentioned that you met your wife, obviously, and she was doing spiritual development classes, and that's kind of what led down the path.
Actually, when we met, neither of us were doing anything. And she started doing it maybe a couple of years before my experiences started.
So that's, yeah. So in that, my question there is what made that happen? What made that change for your wife to start then? For, like, how did it all come about?
She also started having experiences. They were different to what I described. I feel, maybe people have had something similar to what I've just talked about. But yeah, she just got drawn to that. She just started looking differently, and she just got drawn to looking. And I think for her, it could have been more of she started doing Reiki as well, in energy healing, and that also a lot of people that do energy healing are sitting in that quiet, comfortable space and that really just peaceful space to do healing, and often spirit will come in and will blend with them. So they're sitting there doing a healing, and then they get the sense that there's someone there that wants to pass on a message. So I think it was a combination of that and just generally being curious. She was more open to it. She'd gone to have readings, and she was more curious than I was.
Yeah, no, I love it. And look, and as you know, in this field, it would have probably happened regardless. But I'm just wondering, had you not met the person that you met, if you went, maybe you won't be going down this path. Have you ever thought about that?
Possibly.
But then they always say, obviously you have the natural gift, so it would have come out eventually. But it's funny how we meet people that change.
Yeah, I think she certainly helped create a safe space, because I think safe space is important, because imagine having all these experiences and you're in a household filled with people that think it's a load of nonsense, and you can't talk about it, you can't express it. What do? You just hold it all in. So at least I was able to say, this is happening. And
you had that, you could support each other. I mean, obviously, I can speak from personal experience being in an Italian background. So being a European background yourself, is there much support in your family there? Or do they, because obviously I know with me, my Italian background, it's kind of hit and miss with, you're doing the sort of evil work, kind of speak. But do you find that you've had much support there in your family?
Most people are open to it, and even people that aren't into it are supportive of it. Some people don't, believe in it. But I mean, I never go push it on anyone or say to anyone,
of course,
you should have a reading. I feel a reading is like a three-way thing, where a person wants to have one, they seek out the psychic or the medium, and then spirit comes to the party as well. So I would never offer it anyway. So I just sort of let people, have
just
their
of course, of course. To everyone who is watching, thank you so much. I'm seeing a couple of people who are asking for psychic readings. We aren't doing psychic readings tonight. This isn't the platform for that. That is for Saturday Night with Harry T. But of course, if anyone has any spiritual related questions in regards to mediumship, to I can't even think of an example because there's so many. It's your question in regards to what you think you might need, not so much help with, but maybe just general advice. Remo, if he's able to answer, will definitely, we'll be able to do that. So if there's anyone in the thread that wants to know, I can't even think of an example, but yeah, generalized questions. So not personal psychic questions, but just generalized sort of questions. It's an open platform for that tonight. So you definitely put your questions in if you do have them. So I'm really curious, Remo. So you sort of developed this gift a bit later, which I love. Do you have any memory in your sort of childhood or growing up where you thought maybe, there was some mediumship or psychic abilities there that you can think of?
There were some dreams which were very, very real, and in hindsight now, they were visitation dreams.
Oh, okay.
People had just passed, and
so we're talking spirit visiting you in the dream.
Spirit visiting in a dream, which is quite common, and you see them, and I guess it's a clairvoyant experience, really, because you are seeing them with your third eye. And I think sleep, when we're, and it's interesting too, the experiences that I started having when I saw those movie reels, as I called them, it was usually around 4:30, 5 a.m. And for people that may be having sort of lucid, vivid, strong, strange, even dreams around that time of the morning, that is a time when we are at a state where we can blend with that other realm a little bit. You've probably heard the expression, the witching hour.
Yes, I always thought that was midnight.
That's that time of the morning. That's That's what I believe.
The witching hour.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's that time of the morning when we are at our closest to that other. Well,
they do say it's always darkest before dawn. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, but I did have, there was my grandmother, my mum's mum. I did have the most vivid dream that I've never ever forgotten, ever, clear as day to this day, and that was probably 30 years ago. And I think about it now, and I think, oh my God, that was What
was the dream?
I remember she came up to me and she did this, as Italian nonnas would do, and like as if to say hi, and I remember looking at her, and then behind her there was a white room, and in that white room were all my other relatives, my dad and my uncle and all these other people that had passed, all sitting around in this room on chairs. And I was shocked. I was taken back. And she said, don't be scared, everyone's fine. And then there was church bells ringing, and she said, you have to go because the funeral's about to start. And I woke up and it was the morning of the funeral.
Oh, no way. I just got goosebumps.
Yeah. So that was 100%. That was a visitation.
Wow. Yeah. And did you, at the time, I mean, I suppose that you would have known, or did you not know?
No, I had no idea. I just thought...
You knew she was passed, though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I knew she was passed, but I didn't think of it as a visitation dream. I just thought it was a dream. But I didn't realize
that is special.
There was more.
Not many people... Yeah, look, I've spoken to a lot of mediums, and... that's a very detailed visit. Like I love that. I love that. What would you say to someone? Because we haven't got any questions just yet. So anyone that is watching, I think everyone's just loving the conversation at the moment. So if you do have sort of generalized questions, non-psychic related, definitely do ask them. But I wanted to sort of, what's your thought on someone who, and I'm sure maybe in your time you've come across this. Say someone's lost someone, a grandmother, a parent, or something like that, and they get upset when they don't dream about them or see them or things like that. What sort of advice would you say to someone if, they're not, able to, like you hear about people saying, oh, a friend of mine, their mum passed and they came to them in a dream. Mine hasn't done that. Why? Mm-hmm. What would be your opinion around, people who can't dream or see their loved ones that have passed?
Sure. Okay. Well, it's a couple of things to take into consideration there. Firstly, I think grief has ways of, making us grab at things to make us feel better, because obviously you're going to miss the person. And I feel grief plays a part in that. But I think too, we shouldn't lock ourselves into expecting to get a message from someone in spirit in a certain way, because often when we do that, it may come like that. It may be a dream. Sometimes people say to me, for example, my father used to like a certain song, so I want to hear this song because then I'll know it's Dad. But Dad might show you something else, and you might miss that because you're so focused on
On
hearing
that.
that one thing that you shut everything else out. And also, um, I think it's very subtle. I think the spirit world brings messages in a subtle way. Like they're not going to crash a door down to get your attention. You know what I mean? You do hear stories of physical mediumship happening, but generally speaking, it's a very subtle thing. So I feel it would take a lot of energy to do something like that and move things around. Although that does happen, but I feel it's important not to lock ourselves in to expecting something a certain way, because we may miss other things that are very
Something else too.
recent.
And I think too, like, I don't know if you agree with this, but especially if it's like a recent passing, would you think that spirit kind of holds off because if they present themselves so soon, it keeps them alive for you? So
Yeah, yeah.
do
There's a
we
lot
need
of.
to grieve a little bit first before we kind of, I mean, it's a grey area.
It is. It is. I think from a physical perspective, I feel, this is just my personal view on it, I feel we need to grieve a little bit, and we need to sort of, deal with the physical side of the passing ourselves. And I've heard some people say, they won't communicate for 2 months or a week or 6 months or whatever. My personal feeling is that they can communicate straight away. Sometimes I'll have people that I feel are in spirit, and I describe them to my client perfectly, and they say they haven't passed yet, but they're almost passed. They have dementia, and
Oh,
the doctor.
okay.
So they're starting to sort of go in and out, drift in and out
Crossover.
from one
Yeah.
world back to the other. So personally, I don't believe there is a set time period that it takes for them to come through, but grief does play a part, because we're not thinking clearly if someone's
No.
really, really.
And I think too, it's important to remember there's no set rule with grief either. We
No,
all grieve
no,
differently, and some people take longer, some people take shorter. I think it
100%.
is obviously important to note that, we do need to take ourselves out of it at some point, but
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, again, the grey area. Take the time you need, but don't get stuck in, we don't agree forever. We do
yeah.
kind of need to find the move on process as well,
Mm.
at some stage. Did it ever scare you when this sort of started happening for you? Were you ever.
No, no,
I
no.
always ask this question and everyone always says no.
It's a
I'm
very
waiting
good
for a yes one day.
it's a very good question, because fear stops us sometimes.
True.
So
That's a good point.
I wouldn't say I had no hesitation, because a couple of things that happened to me, I went, hang on a minute. But I didn't feel fear. I was sort of cautious. I thought, what's happening? And sometimes, I wonder if, I don't want to say that they're testing us, but I feel sometimes we have these experiences, and if we are fearful, I feel it holds you back a little. Whereas if you embrace it more and go forward with it, I feel then it opens you up a little bit more. But no, Michael, I can't say I was scared. I can't say I was.
No, and that's good. And it's so true when you're talking about fear. And I think not just with mediumship, I just think in life in general, like if we attach fear to anything, we're not going to really move forward
No,
in that,
no.
whether it's money, career, relationships. I think in general, fear does hold us back. So
Yeah.
I love the way you described that because it's so true in all areas.
It is. It is. It's very true in all areas of life. And, just going back to what you said earlier too, about people wanting to see their loved ones a certain way, if for example, one of our loved ones did appear in the lounge room, say, and we saw them as I'm looking at you now, I feel even if you're not fearful, your body, your physical body and your brain would have a reaction to that, because that's not the norm, you know what I mean? So there would be
Ah,
there would be some kind of a reaction to it, if not a little bit of shock, or maybe a little bit of fear, a little bit of hesitancy, because it's not really normal for us to see that every day.
No, and it's funny. Quick shout out to Veronica, to Nita, to Nicole, Anna. Thank you. Everyone's kind of jumping on late tonight, so you'll get late passes, which is fine. We do have the beautiful Remo on tonight. So again, we're not doing psychic readings on a Thursday. That is for Saturday's show. But anyone who wants to ask a general question about mediumship, spirituality, psychic abilities, whatever you like, this is the platform to do it. We haven't got any just yet, which is totally fine. But speaking on what you've just said about the fear and seeing things that are sort of not the norm, as you would say, it's funny because, using me as a personal example, I find that my mediumship gifts are trying to develop in a way. Like, it's definitely a area that I can see my gift growing into, but it is the fear that's stopping me from allowing it to develop. You know, like I know it's there, but there's a part of me that is like, oh, maybe I'm just not ready, blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, it's just listening to you talk. It's made me realize it is the fear of seeing something that isn't supposed to be there that's scaring me from allowing that gift to grow. So how would you sort of get over that, in a sense, to use the blunt term, or is it just time?
Well, I would say to everyone, mediumship is a natural phenomena. So I would say to everyone that means that it exists. But again, this is what I believe. Like, it's a natural phenomena, therefore it exists, and it's us trying to understand it. So the fear factor is just fear of the unknown. I don't believe there's anything to fear, but we don't know what's there yet when we're starting out. And because it's a natural thing, I believe to some degree we all have the ability. I mean, if everyone's a psychic, as far as I'm concerned, we all have a gut feeling and intuition.
Yeah,
and that's the gateway to it. Should you choose to explore that?
Should you choose to listen? Yeah, correct, exactly. And I think it's important to note too. There is that whole, there's always good and evil, if we're going to call that. But generally speaking, the spirits that connect, then they're not there to harm us technically. Yes, there might be. It depends on what you're inviting in. I mean, I wouldn't say go and do like a seance or a Ouija board. That's the stupidest thing you could probably do. But generally speaking, if spirit is trying to connect with you, it's because they generally just want to pass on a message, and it's finding, I suppose, a safe space in that.
Very, very true. I think, it's about intention. So I know personally, I mean, in the years I've been doing it, I haven't seen anything terrible. I've seen a couple of negative types of energy just on 2 occasions that I can think of. But that was about the person and what they were going through and how it was manifesting.
Yeah.
That's what I was reading. So they had a lot of issues, a lot of things happening. But if your intentions are good, I know, when I do readings, my intention is to help people, improve their life, move forward, understand something better, that they've come, that part of the reason why they've come. So therefore my intentions are good. That's what I'm attracting. That's how I see it. So I'm not out there to give negative messages, attract anything dark. And it's true what you say, you can't have light without dark.
Yeah, I mean, there has to be a balance. It's what keeps us. Yeah. Veronica's actually asked, have you had an experience where spirits connected with you through music?
Through music? I have had a couple of readings where spirits given me songs, and in hearing that song, it's very interesting. So one comes to mind straight away. That Guy Sebastian song, Battle Scars?
Yes.
I was on platform doing a reading for a man, and I said, I think it was his grandfather, but anyway, I said, I've got this man. I gave him all this information. He said, yes, that's all correct. And then in my mind, I'm hearing that song, Battle Scars. And I thought to myself, this guy was in the war. And I said to the man, was your grandfather in the war, and did he have bad post-traumatic stress disorder? He said, yes, he did. So maybe they haven't connected with me through music, but they can use music because I am
Just
into
to
music.
have,
I do love
yeah.
music. I grew up listening to a lot of music, and I know a lot of bands and singers. So I do find it comes into the readings, things, because spirit always uses what we can understand, what we can
And
interpret.
that's so true, isn't it? That is
Yeah,
so true.
very true.
Random question. What's your star sign?
I'm an Aquarius.
So I was going to say Saggy, but
Okay, I'm not good with star signs, so
no. It's sort of I'm a
maybe
Virgo, but it's
maybe
sort of
those questions are for you, Michael.
no. I was just sort of because when you said music, I know Sagittarians really love music.
Yeah.
So I was wondering if that's just a random question, but that's Melanie has asked. This is an interesting question. Have you had galactic communication? I'm not actually don't even myself don't really know the meaning of that, but
That's a good
anything
question,
to comment?
Melanie. Yeah, the answer is yes, 100%.
Oh, see, I don't even know what galactic communication is.
Well, I've done Reiki, and I've done Seikим, which is a form of energy
Okay.
healing. Yeah. So in doing those, I found that some new, I'll call them spirit guides, some new guides made themselves known, and they were certainly galactic beings, 100%. And I've channeled messages from them, and when I do healing sometimes, I know they come forward and I can see symbols coming down onto the person. So yes, I have. It's not a big area of focus for me. I know a lot of people focus on that much more, but yes, I certainly have. And it's good question too, because in the beginning I thought, well, I could sense them, and I thought, no, wait a minute, I can't do that because I'm doing something else. So in my mind, I thought, I can't possibly do both of this, but you can.
Right.
You can. One doesn't get in the way of the other. In fact, one's complemented the other.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. I've never sort of seen or known it to be like that.
Yeah, well, it was just a sense, Michael. I just got a sense of a
Yeah.
being, and I tuned into what I was getting, and I could see in my mind's eye clearly. If you think of a spirit guide, we often think of a Native American Indian or a wizard or something like that, something more earthbound, but it can be other things as well.
Yeah, exactly. It is. It's so true too. Um, and I agree with you, Anna. She's getting lost in tonight's chat because she hasn't seen Remo in a long time. I'm getting lost in his background as well. Me too. Like I said, we could just sit. You could just honestly do you could just talk with that background and people will just tune in and just go on a journey. I think with the voice in the background, you could make some really good money off that. I think it's just something to think about. um, we kind of spoke about this, but Carrie has asked, how did you start to explore and understand your gifts? Did you start with tarot or a clear knowing, etc.?
At first, when I started, it was I was just getting. It was clairsentience. I was just feeling energies around me, and not too long after I started having all those experiences which I spoke about earlier, I actually joined a mediumship development circle, and I found that really it started to expand the gifts. And I mean, we call them gifts, but call them abilities. I think it's a better word, because gifts kind of
Oh,
make
okay. See, I would go with the gift, but ability is good too. Yeah.
yeah, because I think, I don't know, gift kind of makes it sound a bit sort of too
Like special,
special.
like
Yeah, like not
good
everyone can
point
do it. You know what I
actually.
mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, but everyone can do it.
Yeah, but
So
everyone can do it to some extent if
good
they
point.
wish.
Good
If
point.
they wish. But what I noticed too, Carrie, was that it was changing. I did have the clairvoyant experiences, and then I haven't had those anymore. Now
Uh-huh.
it's feeling. It's like clairsentience, so it's just a knowing and a feeling. Um,
Okay.
and it's like I get little thoughts in my mind. It's like a memory sort of thing.
Do
It's
you
like
still get the dreams that you used to get?
no, very few
Oh,
and
how
far.
interesting!
It's interesting, isn't
Interesting
it?
that that's changed.
Yeah,
I
that's
wonder
changed.
why that changed for you.
I don't know. I've just learned to just go with it and just accept that that's the way it is. It may come back, but but again, I don't think, because I think clairvoyance is the one that gets talked about the most.
Yeah.
It seems to be the most exciting one. So you don't want to get into a space of you have clairvoyance and then it goes away and you think, oh my goodness, I've lost my ability to do this. It just means it's changed to something else. And
that's true. And yeah. And our gifts do grow in their own way. So that kind of makes sense. You obviously went down. Maybe the dreams were to kind of wake you up to, hey, we're trying to, like, you've got a gift here. And now that you've kind of woken up to that, it's like, well, we don't need to send you messages anymore. You get them the way you're supposed to get them, maybe.
Get them in a different way, a way that works for me, Yeah, it's interesting.
It is. It's so fascinating. Tammy has said that I agree. We all have psychic abilities. We either listen and embrace, or we get lost in the pressures of life. And it's so true, isn't it? Like,
it's so true. It's so true, Tammy. Yeah, it's life's so busy, and I think the most important thing is that we use those abilities for our everyday life. If you're, excuse me, it doesn't matter what job you do. If you're a doctor or you work in a shop or whatever, if you're doing that job from a physical perspective, but then if you're doing it from an intuitive perspective as well, then you're going to do that job better. So mindfulness.
And I think, 100%. And I think very important. And I think too, and I speak a lot about this almost weekly, is trust. Trust in that intuition, because if we're not trusting what we're feeling, you're kind of not really going anywhere with it either. That's I think the most important thing.
No, and I think it is like a muscle. The more you trust, the more you're using it, and the better it gets.
The stronger it gets. I always say to my clients, your psychic ability or your intuition, or whatever it is, it's a muscle. We got to exercise it. The stronger you make it, the more you work out, the stronger it gets. It's funny that you say that, because I say that all the time.
Yeah, and it's so true. And we can do little exercises, like, for example, if you're in the lobby of a hotel or somewhere and there's 3 or 4 lift doors, which one's going to open, and you can try and tune into that. Just things like
I find it really interesting that you just said hotel, because I swear to spirit, before you even said hotel, I was envisioning a gold hotel lobby with like a gold sort of couch and elevators and lifts. It's really funny that you said that, because for some reason that image just came to my mind.
That's very
and then you said it and I was like, oh my God, I was just thinking of a hotel lobby.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Don't even know why. And I'm not on drugs. But speaking of drugs, this is an interesting question. I think some people who take drugs think they're mind readers and mediums. What are your thoughts on that? And what about the living, when they attach themselves to others because they know you're a medium or view you as what, famous? So kind of, if you kind of get, when people who take drugs, they say it opens up your mind and they see things and they're hallucinating. It's a fine line.
It's a fine line. Yeah, it is.
What's your thoughts on that?
My personal view is, I wouldn't do any kind of psychic mediumship work. I mean, I don't do drugs anyway, but drinking, for example, I wouldn't drink before I'm going to do anything. I just feel, for me personally, I don't feel it's respecting what I'm doing or the people that are there or person that's there. People, there's a lot of talk about psychedelics,
yes,
journeys,
mushrooms and acid and things like that. And I know, and I've always wondered. It's like they're obviously seeing something, because their mind's eye is definitely open, but there is a fine line between the chemicals, and that's what people got to realize. We have chemicals in our brain that what causes hallucinations. Doesn't mean you're a medium, or it means that you're seeing something that isn't there. I mean, well, you are seeing something that isn't there, but there's a difference between hallucination and an ability.
I totally agree. And but one thing that it would do, I mean, it would lower the, if you're drinking, for example, you're going to be more relaxed and you're not going to be as fearful. But I still don't see that the two should be used. If you really want a true spirit communication, then you've got to work on that and blend with spirit and bring that through. And what was the other part of that question? The people attaching.
Where is it? About attaching themselves because they know you're a medium.
Yeah, well, that would be like, I guess, a codependency thing happening, which is something that can happen because I feel, let's face it, if people get a reading, in most cases there's something going on and they feel stressed or they feel down. And, if we're making them feel better, sometimes in that vulnerable state, then I guess they can feel attached to us. I guess it's something to be mindful of, and I guess from my perspective, it would be something that you would need to make the client, uh, make them, let them know that that is possibly what's happening, if it's happening, because I don't see that you could come every week, 6 weeks in a row, to get a mediumship reading. You know what I mean? Like, I don't see.
No, yeah.
Yeah,
I always say to
yeah,
my clients, if I've given you a time frame, for example, 'cause I don't do mediumship, I do, as an empath, I do only 6 months. I don't go beyond that. So I
sure.
always say, if I've given you time frames, allow the time frames to pan out, unless, of course, with free will, you've changed that and you feel like you need maybe an update. But I agree, like, I know people who do, look, each to their own. If they want to pay for a psychic reading every week and that's what you want to do, go for it, but
Yeah, yeah.
give it time as well. But I
You've got to
think a
give
lot
it.
of people too, like, I know with me, some of my clients come to me almost like on a counseling point of view, like just to
Yeah,
talk, because it's
sure.
like a cheaper counselor, you know?
Sure.
Um, so it's kind of, yeah, you do what feels right. But I agree with you. We do need to allow it time, um, to sort of pan out.
Mm.
Anita has sort of was talking about spirits and stuff before, but she said that I've seen when they the spirits that I've seen when they step in to help me out on a dangerous situation or from getting hurt. So she made a comment earlier about that she sees spirits. So the ones that she sees help her out in dangerous and situation times. And that's, you know what I mean? Like, that's something too that people need to remember, is that we always got guides and protection around us, and they will step in. Spirit and the universe don't want to hurt you on purpose. They might want to teach you lessons, and there's
Mm.
lessons that we need to learn. But you are always going to be guided and protected.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's something to remember.
Yeah, and I've encountered people who, I remember there's one lady I did a reading for, and I said to her, would you say that you've been in a lot of situations in your life? And when I say a lot, I mean a heck of a lot of situations where you could have been hurt, but you weren't, and things could have gone wrong, but they didn't, and things seem to always work out at the last minute. And she said, yes. She said, that's so true. And I said, maybe you had a little bit of help along the way from people you didn't realize were with you, were around you. And I do feel that sometimes, we have a guardian angel, or we have spirit, or we have someone with us, and just gives us that little bit of extra protection when we need it.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to trusting, doesn't it?
Yeah, it
Trusting
does.
that they're
It
there,
does.
and trusting that. And I repeat it. I swear, I repeat it daily, but I repeat it every week on this show, and on other shows that I do, because I think we say it, but so many of us don't do it. So it's like,
Mm.
I repeat it because it's like, just try. I know it's hard for some people. It's hard for me too. Sometimes, when I feel like I've got no money, I'm like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to get through the week. But then it's like, no, money will come. It'll come from somewhere. It's
Yeah,
trusting.
yeah.
It's we can do a whole show on that,
Good,
honestly.
yeah. We could.
Tammy has said, I agree with you both regarding, if you don't use your psychic muscle, you don't develop it. I shut down my abilities as a young child as I thought I was weird.
Mm.
But now really listen, and like you, Remo, feel things more. I now welcome spirit and those that have passed to guide me. And sometimes we do have to go through, um, that sort of journey.
Mm. Yeah,
Like
definitely.
we all, it all comes at different times, like it has for you,
It does. Yeah, yeah.
Jocelyn has said, I love Remo, such a calm energy. Send me some of this calm energy. I'm too fiery.
Fiery.
I just, people are actually saying how much they're loving your calm. You have such a beautiful calm. That's why I love talking with you. And when I see you do the Saturday shows, you've got this natural, beautiful, calming energy that a lot of people don't possess. So that's, I think, well, I know we're not using the word gifts, but I think that's another really great ability that you have, to be able to have this calmness. Has that something that you've always had in you, like just always been a very? Have you? I mean,
Generally,
have you even heard that?
yeah, I have heard it before. Even before I started doing this, people used to say that you have a calming energy, an energy that kind of, um, I don't know, just calms the room. I
Yeah,
guess I have heard it before, so it's good. It's not a bad thing. It's good. So
yeah. It's
yeah,
just, and it obviously comes natural. It's not like something that you're, you know, having to do to. It's not like you're, working to be calm. It just comes very natural for you.
comes natural. But I think having been on this journey, I think um, it certainly made me more aware from an energetic point of view. So like Jocelyn was just saying, she feels her energy is that way, which is fine if that's how she is. But it's important to be aware of what your energy's doing. If it's fiery, that's your natural way. But is it too fiery,
Yeah.
or am I not speaking up enough? Maybe, you know what I mean. As long as we're aware of what's happening,
Or
that's
maybe
the
speaking too much because we love Josh. Justin is a little firecracker, and we love that. But I think too, as you said, if that's your personality, like embrace that. Do you know what I
embrace
mean?
it.
Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Embrace that. There's a lovely quote that I saw, and it said, "None of us are perfect, but we're perfect the way we are." And I thought
Oh, I love that.
that's beautiful, because that means you were embracing who we are. It's just a matter of understanding
I
ourselves a little
love
bit
that. None of us are
deeper. Yeah,
perfect, but we're perfect the way we
yeah,
are.
we are. Yeah,
I'm, I'm, I'm. Yeah, I really love that. I
it's
actually
it's
really love that
beautiful. It's beautiful. Yeah, when I saw it, I thought that's so true, and because often we're hard on ourselves as well when
all
we
the
don't need to
time.
be. Yeah, when we don't need to be. So yeah, I thought it was
Um,
quite.
I really love that. I really love that. Has there ever been a reading that stuck with you that that you're able to talk about?
Um, there have been some very clear ones. Sometimes they are very clear. It's like, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a combination of the person I'm reading for and myself and spirit, but sometimes it's literally like as I said, I don't see spirit like I'm looking at you now, but sometimes it almost feels like that I am, and they're so clear. Um, but let
But
me
has there
think.
been one in your past that you still remember? That's like stuck
Not
with you?
one, not one in particular. There's a few that come to mind. There's a father that keeps coming through for, because I do spiritualist churches once a month usually.
Okay.
So I'm up on platform, and there's a father that keeps coming through. And the first time he came through, I hadn't connected with him before, so I gave this information. And then about a month or two later, I saw the same guy, and I thought, oh, I feel his father's there again. But my head was saying, hang on, you connected with his father last time. But then I thought, no, just trust this, let it go. So his father brought me completely different information
Ah,
to what he
interesting.
did the time before. So sometimes, when we doing a reading for someone we know, we may think, well, I know this person, so my head's going to get in the way. But it's a good way to sort of trust and
You
just,
almost sounds like you almost get to know them on the other side. It's
yeah,
like, oh, you're familiar. It's
yeah,
like, oh, it's you again. Like, hey,
yeah,
it's good to
yeah.
see you.
And then that person, so the first two times I went to the person direct, and I said, I feel I'm with you, and I said, I feel it's your father. And then the third time his father came through yet again, but this time I was standing there and I said, I I have a man, and I gave all this information. I said, does that make sense to anyone? I said, I feel it's a father. And guess who put his hand up? That same man. So again, it was a completely different set of information. Um,
Yeah.
so I do remember that person in spirit, but no, there's not really one reading that comes to mind. But sometimes they are just clear,
All
so clear sometimes,
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's not. I think that's with everyone. I'm the
I
same.
think
Like
so too. Yeah, I think so
yeah,
too.
I have readings with clients that it's like there's so much information that comes through, and then there's some clients where it's like there's not
It's
as
harder.
much, but it's
Mm.
yeah, it can be a bit, and that can be on the person too. Like maybe they think they want a reading, but they may not be ready as well. So their psychic
Possibly,
ability
yeah.
puts up an unknown blockage as well.
Possibly,
There's so
yeah.
many factors, but Frank has asked a good question.
Mm.
What do you say to people that ask the same question over and over? I don't know if that's happened to you, but what would you sort of say? I mean, I've got an opinion on this, but what would you?
Well, I think that's getting into the realm of, you know, they've already made their mind up, sort of thing, and they're wanting confirmation on what they believe the answer should be. So
Yeah.
sometimes, you know, I believe sometimes the answer we think we should get for something that we're trying to figure out is not necessarily the right answer. It's just us. And there could be a bit of fear in there, or a bit of lack of understanding, or not having looked at another perspective. But I would just say, look, that's what I'm getting. That's what I feel. That's what I see. And that's all I can really do. You know what I mean? Um, I don't.
Yeah, and
What do you think, Michael?
I honestly, I'm quite blunt, and people know that about me. I think if you're asking the same question over and over, you're trying to get validation that doesn't exist. So to me, it's basically like if you're asking the same question and you're going to multiple psychics asking the same question, it's because you haven't heard the answer that you want to hear. And
Yeah.
I think it's almost accepting what it is that you're hearing. It may not be what you want to hear, but it is what it is, kind of thing. We can't change an outcome, and we can't force things that may or may not happen.
Mhm.
But it's happened to me multiple times. I've had clients in the past where they do ask multiple times of the same question, and I actually say to them, I go, I'm not going to answer it to you this time because I've already given you the answer.
Mm.
So there's a lot of areas in that sense. But I think if you're asking the same question, and especially if you're going to multiple different psychics asking the
Yeah.
same question, what is it that you're seeking?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Or what is it that you're, I guess, fearing? What is it that
True.
yeah. You know, if I don't know, the question it could be a multitude of questions, but yeah, maybe
Well,
you.
I've got a good example personally. So when I broke up with my partner several years ago, I actually went to multiple psychics hoping that one of them would say, yes, you'd get back together.
Hmm.
So that's a really good example
A
of
good
using
example.
me as an
Yeah.
example of
Yeah.
I was hoping for someone to say, and I went to 4 different psychics, spent God knows how much money, and all of them said it's over. But I just couldn't accept that.
Yeah.
So, you know, something to think about as well. I think for people to realize that if you're getting the same answer multiple times, it's sitting with it and just maybe finding some acceptance.
Yes. Yes. True. True. And yeah, yeah, it's true. And it's about looking at. I always think a reading is, sure, sometimes we do get specific information, but often I feel it's about giving a new perspective, a new point of view, an avenue that the client hasn't explored or thought about or looked at, and then in that, they find a different answer by themselves. Because ultimately, it is about guiding people to trust themselves and use their own intuition to make a decision or accept an outcome, whether it be one way or the other.
Definitely, I agree. What general advice could you give anyone who's watching now and maybe who's watching later? What's one bit of advice that you want to sort of share?
Um, I
I'm
would
putting you on the
say
spot there.
no, that's all right. It's good. I would say to everyone, what I do, what Michael does, what we do here is, it's about a journey of personal growth and personal healing. So I would say to everyone, first and foremost, trust your own intuitions, trust your own gut feeling, go with that, see where that leads you. And I believe a little bit of quiet time every day, 5-10 minutes per day, builds that trust and builds that intuition. Because yes, we do readings, and readings are a big part of why people come, but there's so much more to it. There's so much more to it than just getting a reading. There's all, because I always say to people, we're physical, mental, and emotional beings, but we're also spiritual beings, and often that spiritual element, that intuitive side, doesn't get looked at often enough. So that's what I would say to people. Trust yourselves, and trust that you are so much more than the physical being that and the physical senses that we have. We're so much more than that.
Yeah. And I think to remember, and I think to remembering that we are human too.
Yes, of course we are. Yeah,
we're actually human beings.
Yeah, and it's bringing all the elements in, the physical, the spiritual, the mental, the emotional, bring it all into one. I think is key to making better decisions and moving forward.
And definitely finding that balance too. I mean, a lot of people, life gets in the way and we use excuses and X, Y, and Z. But I think it's remembering that, we are human, we have emotions and we need to bring that back to ourselves, like self-care, self-love,
Yes,
saying no sometimes, things like that. We get so caught up, especially now with the way the world's kind of going. It's like, don't get too lost. Like, remember who you are.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Staying grounded and being mindful. I think is very important, because that leads to awareness then, and then we have a better sense of what's happening. With our energy, with our emotions, and again, that helps us move forward.
How do you ground at the end of the day or end of the week or month?
I usually, there's a couple of ways. I usually try and do a 10-15 minute sitting quietly every day. I don't do it every day, to be honest, because as you said, life gets busy sometimes, but I try to do that. I love being out in nature, bare feet on the ground, bare feet on the grass, preferably. I really, really love that. But just sitting quietly, just clearing my energy, collecting my thoughts, and just trying to clear all that away, and just sitting in a quiet space. That's how I usually do it. But if you live if you live near nature, if not, find a quiet space in the backyard or in your apartment, wherever it is, there's always somewhere, just a little quiet space where you can sit, and you can bring white light through your chakras. You could connect to the earth and release.
Get a beautiful backdrop like you have.
Yeah, you could do that too. But I think, whatever works for you. There's lots of ways to do it. Some people do it in the shower and they imagine the water as well.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, see, yeah, perfect. Because people say that they're busy and they haven't got time, so you can incorporate it into something that you do on a regular basis.
I mean, you assume most people shower daily, or whatever works, or even going for a walk. If you're just walking to your car or to your train station, it's so easy to reground.
Walking the dog or anything like as simple as that could be a grounding exercise.
Perfect. Thank you so much for tonight.
You're very welcome, Michael.
It's been amazing, and honestly, I could just sit. Yeah, you've probably been told this, but you need to do a podcast or something, because you've just got the perfect voice for it, and people could really gain a lot. I think you've got a lot more still to do. I don't know why, psychically, I'm just sort of getting that there's more to do here, and I think a lot of people watching will agree that if you had a podcast or something where we could listen to you, I don't know why I keep getting, maybe not a podcast, but somewhere where you can talk, I'm telling you, it'll do really well. Oh, you do?
I do, yeah.
Okay, there you go. You're actually on Saturday with Harry T this Saturday.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that as well. That'd be
so
cool. So we are doing readings then.
Yes. I know a few of you, I'm seeing all your questions. Jocelyn, Lisa, thank you so much. We are coming to the end of tonight's show, but Remo is back this Saturday with Harry T doing psychic readings, so you get a double dose of Remo. So definitely tune in to 8 o'clock this Saturday night with Harry T. I'll definitely have you back on this show at some stage, but again, thank you so much for coming on.
That's all right. You're very welcome, Michael. Thank you. My pleasure.
That's all right. Thank you.
Great to talk to you, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you as well. And thank you to everyone that has been watching tonight. I have seen your comments. Veronica's saying, yay. Carrie, yeah. So, yeah, Remo's on again this Saturday as well. Anna, thank you for your comment there. I'm just going through all your comments saying to Carrie Ann, good morning from Canada. Good to see you there from Canada. Kat, evening to you. I love that, Tammy. I'm perfect in my imperfections, with all my imperfections. I know. And also to perfection doesn't even really exist. Anyway, we could go on and on. Thank you so much for your company tonight. I am back next Thursday with Leon. Yeah, Leon. I think it's Leon D. I've forgotten her last name. But Leon is beautiful. She is full of energy, a little pocket rocket as well. So make sure you're tuning in next Saturday. Well, make sure you're tuning in this Saturday at 8 o'clock to see Remo with Harry T. And make sure you're back on next Thursday at 8 o'clock with Leon as my guest. Thank you so much. Remember to trust your intuition. Remember to be kind. And I will see you all next